This video is being sponsored by Circle.
Circle is a live-action football sweepstake game where the winner is decided by what happens on the pitch.
And this weekend, they are launching their 5-match millions game.
Here's how the game works.
You choose your 5 lucky numbers, one from each of the 5 games.
Every kick, throw and header makes a difference to the final winning number chosen for each match at full time. This could all be followed on the Circle app.
Match one number and win money. The more matches that you make, the more money that you do make. And if you match all 5, you win a whopping £1 million.
Another bonus, refer a friend to gain a free entry to the 5-match millions. Use the code on screen now, WeAreTottenhamTV, and gain yourself a free entry.
You have to be over 18 and a UK resident to play. Please gamble responsibly. What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another preview stream for you guys. We play Bournemouth at home, 3 o'clock kickoff tomorrow. And it's a game we have to win if we have any aspirations of making that top 4 this season. And you know what? Bournemouth, a few months ago, you would have said, you know, they're sleepwalking to relegation. Before the World Cup, they were dreadful, loss after loss after loss. It came back, nothing seemed to have changed, and then something just clicked with Bournemouth. They seem to be picking up some really good results. You know, a draw at Bournemouth, a draw at home to Newcastle, a win away at Wolves, a win at home to Liverpool, a win at home to Fulham, a win away at Leicester, which was very impressive last weekend. When you're talking about facing teams against each other within the drop, you know, that was a massive result for them last week, Bournemouth. So it ain't going to be an easy game, but we'll get into their form in a minute. But let's look at the head-to-head between the two clubs. Obviously, Spurs leading that quite strongly. 3 wins, a draw and a loss coming in the last 5 games. And it usually is a game that you're thinking that Spurs can take all 3 points or should take all 3 points. But I'm a bit less confident coming into it this weekend than maybe previous games against them.
Well, that probably says more about Spurs than it does about Bournemouth. As much as Bournemouth are playing well right now, they've won 4 out of their last 8 for a team in the relegation scrap, and for a team that before January won a terrible run. They had like 5 consecutive losses and looked like they were doomed for the drop. And since January, they made a few signings, to be fair to them. They've done really well in the transfer market. They got some players like Traore, Utara through the door. They did sign a centre-back from Ukraine, but he hasn't featured much. They found a new role for Philip Billing, and they've really got Solanke playing at his best at the moment. So I think they've found a system that seems to be working for them at the moment. They seem to be getting a lot of joy. They've kind of combined their compact organisation with a real threat on the counter-attack, which maybe they didn't have a couple months ago before the signings. So they've recruited well. Gary O'Neill has made sure that everyone is doing the hard work. They're never easy to play against this Bournemouth side. And I think we know that a team like Spurs, that when we come against teams who are hard-working and don't leave anything on the pitch, sometimes we can get outworked, we can get outfought, we can struggle. Less so at home than away from home, but it can happen at home for sure. And Bournemouth definitely will be giving us a bit of the will be giving us the ball. We'll be asked to break them down. But on the flip side, they have conceded the most goals in the Premier League. They've conceded 57 goals. Their back line, quality-wise, is extremely suspect. I think Gary O'Neill, you know, they've kept clean sheets against the likes of Liverpool at home and stuff like that. They can put in a good defensive display, but they're not the best quality-wise defenders. These are championship-level defenders. Yeah. So that is, you've got to look at that backline thing. We can definitely take the game to them, and we can definitely get them, be able to open them up. But you have to say that they've been impressive recently, and even games where they've lost, like 3-2 against Arsenal, 2-0 up for a lot of that game, and had chances to extend it and end up succumbing in the end, probably deservedly so. But if they're 2-0 up against us, do I back us to turn it around? Probably not right now.
Well, we did that earlier on the season, didn't we?
That's true, we did, yeah.
You're talking about how hard it is to play Bournemouth, and we found that out firsthand, didn't we? When we went there just before the World Cup, I think it was. Or was it just before or just just after. I think it was just before.
It was before.
And, we go 2-0 down, and we needed a late comeback from Bentancur, got the goals in the last minute. I think, what was it? Ben Davis and Bentancur scoring those days. Both of those players out injured for us this week, though.
And Sessegnon. He also scored.
Yeah, Sessegnon as well,
also injured. So, it's not going to be an easy game, but I do think their defence is really suspect. And to be fair, Kane's still in good form. Son obviously scored a great goal last week. So hopefully the forward line, and I still think Porro is, contributing down the right-hand side as well going forward. He should have a bit more joy going forward this time than last week.
This is a game where Porro can really thrive in my opinion.
So I think we should have enough going forward. It's more about don't do stupid things at the back where it allows them to get into the game. Don't give them a lead or concede any stupid goals. And I think we should have enough to score at least a couple of goals in this game.
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because we're not going into this super confident where we probably should be when you're looking at the home form of Spurs. We're got results consistently at home now in the recent past. You're looking at Bournemouth. Yes, they've got 2 wins in their last 5 away games, but you're looking at where those wins came on. They came at Wolves and they came at Leicester. Whenever they've been asked to come up against teams maybe in the top 6 race, they've lost. They've lost to Newcastle away, they lost to Chelsea away, they lost to Man U away, they lost to Brentford away, they lost to Brighton away, they lost to Arsenal, and they lost to Villa. So I mean, when you're looking at that, surely that's got to fill you with confidence that we got to take that 3 points this weekend.
I mean, I am confident we're going to win, to be honest. I do think we're going to win on Saturday, and it's not just because of the home form. I think it's more just to do with the quality of Bournemouth. I think can be overcome with our quality, but I know it's mostly been in away games, but we've seen in the last 3 games that we're brittle. We can easily pushed over when the going gets tough. We struggle to see out games. And
to be honest, Brighton was probably going to be another one like that if the referee decision went the right way.
Exactly, and you had Southampton and Everton in there who are not playing as well as Bournemouth probably are right now, and they were able to get points of us. So that is something to be wary of. But I do think being at home and being in front of the home crowd does make a difference. I do think that should see us over the line and hopefully give the team the confidence to get the win and get a few goals as well. But you just have to be wary that this Bournemouth team are compact. They're pretty good on the counter. They have, I think for me, it's more the way they've got Billing and Solanke playing together now. That is a big danger. But going the other way, their backline could easily be got at. So I am confident that with Kane, Son and Kulusevski or whoever's fit, maybe Richarlison, whoever plays up front, I am confident we're gonna take the game to them and create chances in this game.
Yeah, talking of Richarlison and also Danjuma, to be fair, I mean, surely there's got to be shouts for both of them, if not at least one of them, to start the game tomorrow. I mean, Kulusevski not really playing well at the moment. Sonny, he's drifting in and out of form. Harry Kane obviously deserves a starting berth, but Danjuma absolutely chomping at the bit to play against his former club again as well this weekend. And Richarlison, was doing well for us in games that we were winning before he got injured.
Definitely, and if he's fully fit, I would seriously consider putting him back in. It was interesting to see Stellini in the last game putting Sonny on the right-hand side and Danjuma on the left. That is something I would seriously consider if going into this game, because Son, I believe, can play on the right. We don't utilise him maybe as much as we should in that position. And I think Danjuma and Richarlison both more comfortable on the left-hand side. So I would consider doing that. Although, what I would say is, in this game, I kind of want Kulusevski there, because if they're going to be kind of compact and they're going to be sitting back, I want someone who's more likely to open them up in those when there's restricted space, and that is Kulusevski. So as much as he's not on the best form, this might be a better game for him than someone like Danjuma or Richarlison. But if they are ready to come in, and we really believe Kulusevski's that out of form, then I'm more than happy to see them come in and play on the left-hand side. But I think in this game I would just persist with Kulusevski for another game.
Fair enough. Let's bring up the opposition lineup, which we think it's going to be. This was the same lineup that they played in their 1-0 win against Leicester. So Neto in goal, who's been fairly impressive this season, to be honest. A back four who, little to be left desired, to be honest, with Smith, Stevens, Mepham and Kelly. I think their midfield is an interesting one with Rothwell and Lerma. I mean, whenever Lerma's playing, you're in for a battle, isn't it?
Definitely, and he is usually a walking card, but he's a hard-working player. Obviously, he's played at a high-level World Cups and things like that, and he's usually been pretty good at that level as well. And I think for Bournemouth, he's been there for a while now, and he's a tough operator. I don't think technically he's the best player, although he can sometimes he can an absolute banger out of nowhere occasionally. But I don't think technically he's the best player, but definitely off the ball, you'll be pushed to find a harder working player than someone like Lerma. Yeah,
and then obviously Christie and Utara on the wings. What do you make out of Utara?
I like him. He's a bit raw, but he's actually a good dribbler. He's got really good pace, and he's a really hard-working winger as well. And when he gets into the final third, a few times he can make some good decisions. He's got a good final ball. He's not the best shooter, but he's good at with good cutbacks, crosses across the face of goal, things like that. And he does the hard yards, which I think is why Gary O'Neill really likes him. And against Liverpool, I remember watching them, and he gave I think it was Robertson, he gave him a torrid time down that right-hand side, and he got an assist for Billings' goal, and they ended up winning the game 1-0. And he's come in and he's been pretty good for Bournemouth, to be honest. He's got a few assists, he's really helped the team, and I think they needed someone like him, his quality on the wings, because I felt like earlier the part of the season, they just didn't have that counter-attacking threat that they do now. But now with, I think, Traore, I don't know if he started last game, but Traore and Utara, and also Tavernier coming back from injury, they definitely seem to have that counter-attacking threat more now.
Are you worried about those matchups on the pitch, potentially Utara against Porro or Christie against Perisic?
Not as much as I was last week.
Yeah.
So last week I was really worried. This week, I am a bit worried, but I don't think it's as much of a problem as it would have been last week. And I think they should be more worried about Porro and Perisic going forward than we should be about Utara and Christie on the wings. I really believe that if they're not tracking Porro back, their defence is lacking so much that we can really open up at will. Whereas Utara and Christie, they might get in a couple of times, but it's not one of those where, it's not like Matoma, where if he gets in, you're in big trouble. I just think we can handle those situations a bit better than this week. So I think they're going to be doing a lot of defending this week. So it's not something I'm that worried about.
Okay, let's move on to the star men, the ones to watch for Bournemouth, and that is Billing and Solanke. I mean, we touched on them before, but Billing especially has been one that's really impressed me of late. I mean, getting goals, only one assist to his name, but he really is, one of the big reasons why they're pulling themselves away a little bit at the moment.
Yeah, he's been super impressive. He's they've kind of got him in this Marouane Fellaini role, in behind the striker. He's got a bit more pace than Fellaini. He's a bit more technically proficient than Fellaini as well. Although I do think Fellaini was a bit more physical, a bit more aerially dominant. But you have to say that Billing is doing a great job. And since they moved him into this role of kind of a free role, allowed to go forward, allowed to attack, he's got a really sweet left foot as well. And he's really thrived in that role recently. He kind of does these really good things. He arrives late in the box. He's got a really good strike on him from the edge of the area as well. He's very good in the air because he's quite tall, so he's quite physical. You can knock long balls into his chest, and he can bring it down as well. He's one who's really come into his own of late, and I got to give him so much credit because he's one of those players who's kind of, he was at Huddersfield and they got relegated. Then he was at Bournemouth and they went down and come back up. So he's kind of been up and down a bit. But he's always been quite a good player. But he's always been a player considered, he's quite similar to Tom Huddleston in a way, Philip Billing.
Without those techers.
Maybe he's not as two-footed as Tom Huddleston, potentially. But he's always been seen as a centre mid, someone who can play quite deep and dictate play that way. but this role for him seems to be working right now, and it seems to allow him to be able to get more goal contributions. And I do think defensively, as much as he's a strong player, he's not like the best defensively, I feel. So I think maybe this role suits him a lot more than maybe being that double pivot role he's been playing a lot of his career.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's definitely come into his own of late, that's for sure. And Dominic Solanke, he's an interesting one, isn't he? Because he's been in and out of the Premier League. I mean, the list of clubs he's been to, you're talking about the likes of Chelsea, Liverpool, big clubs that he's been to, and he's scored hatful of goals in the Championship and never really seemed to have done it in the Premier League. And it's the season started off like that, was just getting one goal here, one goal there, and a goal contribution here or there, and not really having any real consistency even in his gameplay. But of late, that seems to have changed. I mean, maybe he's not getting the goals consistently, but he's contributing.
It was interesting because apparently Gary O'Neill told him that he needs to be more selfish in front of goal. He needs to shoot more. He needs to make sure he's manoeuvring positions to get attempts on goal, and maybe beforehand he was more interested in being a link-up striker and bringing other players into play and trying to do a job for the team. And since O'Neill said that, he's really been a lot more of a threat. He's all of a sudden starting to bully centre defenders. He's definitely getting shots off from more angles. I noticed that last week. I can't remember what game they played. Not Leicester, sorry. The week before that, they played Brighton at home. Even though they lost, he was, whenever he got the opportunity to shoot, he took it, and he was getting them on target more often than not. Even if it was a tight angle, an angle where you thought it would be difficult to get it on target, he was. And it shows, I think, he's got quite decent striking ability, and he needs to use that more, because he's shown in the Championship he can be a very good finisher if given the opportunities. And in the Premier League recently, I agree, he hasn't quite done it, but he is showing signs that he could be good at this level if he decides to have take it upon himself to shoot more and get in those areas a bit more, rather than focusing on just being a team player all the time. And recently, I've been super impressed with his ability to hold defenders off, his ability to get shots in on goal, and he's linking up really well with Philip Billing at the moment. So we need to make sure we're restricting that access to Solanke, because they can go very direct to him, and that can hurt you, and it's shown over the last few weeks. He's been getting a lot of joy. So I think Solanke is an underrated striker, in my opinion, actually, and I just think he's playing in teams at the moment in the Premier League always struggling, and he never kind of gets to play in teams who like to dominate possession. He gets lots of chances for, and that's led to his lack of goals. But I think he is starting to show recently that maybe he does belong in this level. But with only 4 goals, obviously people still say I want to see more before they take a gamble on him or sign him or whatever. But I do think he could be a 10-plus goal a season striker in the Premier League.
Really? You think that many? Wow. All right, well, what is your score prediction?
I'm going for 3-1 Spurs.
3-1.
I think, I think that with our attacking talent, I think Bournemouth, their defence is just, as much as they can be well organised, I think quality-wise, individually, they're not so strong. And I think we can win our individual battles. We're going to stretch the play as well with Porro and Perisic being very far wide. Hopefully that either leads to space for them or space inside for Son, Kulusevski and Kane. Either way, I see us punishing them. Are we going to be settled to the counter-attack? Probably, with Utara and Christie. But what I'm banking on the fact is they won't be able to get into those counter-attacking positions as much as maybe other teams will, who are better in possession than Bournemouth. And when we do go forward, I really believe we're going to make our attacking quality count. But I do see Bournemouth getting goal from a set piece or a counter-attack, and our defence is still brittle, so I don't think a clean sheet. But I see us getting 3 goals, so 3-1.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I just can't see us getting 3 goals. I think it's going to be a really difficult game. I think whoever Bournemouth come up against, they're finding it difficult right now. Even Arsenal of late, came up against Bournemouth and struggled. So I think we are going to struggle in the game, but I do think we'll just about get over the line. Maybe need a bit of help from the referees again, but we need all the help that we can get at the moment. So I'm going to go for Spurs just to get over the line and win the game by 2-1. And I'm hoping to see one of Richarlison or Dan Juma start the game, but we'll hear from Stellini very soon on the injury updates in the squad. But that is our match preview for the game.